Hi there, and welcome to Films According to Chris Wyatt presents Sequels Revisited. Well, Halloween's right around the corner, so we got time for one more horror movie review. So in honor of that, let's take a look at the sequel to one of my favorite haunted house movies of all time, Poltergeist.
The original film was released in 1982. It starred Craig T. Nelson and Jo Beth Williams as the parents of the Freeling family, a family living in a quiet suburban California neighborhood. After their youngest daughter, Carol Ann, witnesses strange entities emerging from their TV, they soon discover that their house is haunted. It starts out relatively harmless, but soon the hauntings become more serious, resulting in a poltergeist taking Carol Ann into their world.
The first film was a collaboration between writer-producer Steven Spielberg and director Tobe Hooper, though many do contend that Spielberg directed more of the film than Hooper did.
Whoever really directed the film, you can definitely see the two filmmakers' styles at play. With Spielberg, there was the high production values, plus his usual affinity for sentimental, if not slightly schmaltzy undertones involving family dynamics. With Tobe Hooper, there is his trademark gritty undertones and grindhouse-style shock moments, like the killer tree and the guy ripping off his face. The film went on to be a huge hit, a massive box office success, praised by critics, and Oscar nominations for sound editing, visual effects, and Jerry Goldsmith's musical score. Today, it's considered a genre classic. The sequel, Poltergeist 2: The Other Side, was released 4 years later. Neither Tobe Hooper or Steven Spielberg returned for the sequel, though most of the main cast from the original returned, including Craig T. Nelson, Jo Beth Williams, Zelda Rubinstein, Oliver Robbins, and Heather O'Rourke, though Dominique Dunne, who played the oldest daughter, Dana, died shortly after the first film was released.
I actually wasn't going to talk about this, but I kind of figured if I didn't address it, somebody else would call me out on it, so I might as well talk about this. But, yeah, legend has it that the Poltergeist series is cursed.
The supposed poltergeist curse stems from the mysterious deaths of 4 cast members of the first 2 films. Dominique Dunne died at the age of 22, while actors Julian Beck and Will Sampson, stars of the sequel, died at ages 60 and 53 respectively, though arguably the most tragic was the series' main star, Heather O'Rourke, who died at the age of only 12, shortly after completing filming of Poltergeist 3. Whether or not you believe in the supposed curse, it's so ingrained in the series' legacy that it was worth mentioning. The sequel once again follows the Freelings, now broke and living in Phoenix with Diane's mother Jess, played by Geraldine Fitzgerald. Soon after the move, however, Grandma Jess dies from natural causes, and once again the Freelings are on their own, facing another series of hauntings.
They're back!
While still a success at the box office, the movie fell below expectations and received generally negative responses from critics and audiences. That said, it did score an Oscar nod for visual effects, and the film has a few supporters. To its credit, the film isn't a complete rehash of the original. Yeah, it follows a similar premise, the typical haunted house tropes, but it does try to explore its spiritual universe a bit more. However, that ultimately ends up becoming one of its biggest flaws.
Now, this is actually something I mentioned in my last movie review. It's a frequent problem in a lot of horror movie sequels, namely that the more you know about something, the less scary it becomes.
For instance, in the first film, the cause of the hauntings was explained just enough to make sense, but with enough mystery to keep it creepy and suspenseful. The neighborhood was built on land that was previously used as a cemetery. However, to cut costs, the developers moved the headstones but left the bodies. Oh, and a little side note, here's some horror movie trivia for you. Those skeletons that are rising from the ground? Yeah, those aren't props, those are actually real human skeletons. Don't believe me? Look it up. In the sequel, it's revealed that both Diane and Carol Ann possess psychic abilities, allowing them greater ability to communicate with the beyond. It's also revealed that the Freelings' previous neighborhood, Cuesta Verde, was home to a bizarre cult led by Reverend Henry Kane. Kane actually appears as the main antagonist, and while actor Julian Beck gives an admittedly creepy performance, and the whole idea of this evil cult is actually fairly unsettling, the lack of mystery really does ruin a lot of that suspense. Plus, there are a few plot holes and unexplained moments that did leave me scratching my head a bit. Of course, it does throw in a few memorable scenes, plus some really neat effects, so it's not entirely without any tension. The scene involving Robbie's possessed braces is easily one of the film's highlight moments. Most of the returning actors are a little weaker this time around, but they still do a generally good job. Heather O'Rourke is probably the standout, as is series newcomer Julian Beck as the creepy Henry Kane, though I will say Zelda Rubinstein is easily the weakest link. Also, the film's director, Brian Gibson, really does try to emulate the Spielberg style by adding quite a bit of Spielbergian whimsy. Unfortunately, while the first film was slightly schmaltzy, though mostly balanced, this one really piles on the schmaltz and doesn't really work with the rest of the film's tone. Decent attempt, but doesn't really come together. So once again, I must ask, is Poltergeist 2 an underrated sequel?
No. No, not really. But it's not totally without merit.
There was definitely effort put into the film, that's obvious. It has a few tense scenes, the effects are memorable, and the cast is mostly decent. But the flawed script really does hold it back, and as a result, the movie is a disappointment. I will say it's better than the third film, but we'll look at that one another time.
Alright, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of Poltergeist 2 by leaving me a comment below. And if you like what you saw and you want to see more, click subscribe and tune in every Monday for a new video. I've also got links to some of my previous reviews right here, and links to my social media pages in the description box below. Happy Halloween, and I'll see you next time.